Good morning, grade 7s, and welcome to your daily mathematics lesson brought to you by WorksheetCloud, your one-stop shop for lockdown education. Please browse through the website worksheetcloud.com and have a look at previous lessons. You'll find activities and memos and a whole host of other subjects to have a look at. So feel free to take advantage of this opportunity while you're in lockdown. The email address on the screen, grade7@worksheetcloud.com, is for you to use. Email me any questions, suggestions, any requests on any topics that you would like me to cover, and I'll try to get to those as soon as possible. Okay, today we're going to be looking at percentages, but before we get into that, we're going to have a look at a warm-up and some mental questions based on previous topics. And then I've got your finisher and your 24 challenge at the end. Okay, so there is your challenge for today. Some old school TV games and a plant called the Venus flytrap. So go have a go at that, work through it, check your answers, and then see how you did once you're done. Good luck. Okay guys, so let's have a look at how you did at that. So the first thing I'm gonna look at there is the fourth line where it says 3 times 3. So the potion is going to be 9. Okay. If my potion is 9, then I know that 20 equals 11 plus 9. Okay, so the fly trap is 11. So at the top, I'm going to have 13 plus 11. Okay. And then if I have a look at the third line where both symbols are equal to each other, okay, so 24 divided by 2 must be 12 plus 12. Okay, and we know 12 equals 12 over here. All right, and then all that's left is I've got my potion, which is 9, my fly trap, which is 11, and my I believe it's a Nintendo. I might be mistaken. Sorry, I don't know much about TV games. And then I think that might be a Game Boy. But again, I stand to be corrected. Okay, so obviously we do the brackets first. 9 plus 11 is 20. 20 minus 12 is 8. So we got 8 multiplied by 12, which is 96. Okay, so well done if you worked through that and you got that. Let's see what's next. Okay, your mental maths questions for today. Go and work them out. Feel free to go have a look at other lessons while you're working them out and see if you can refresh your memory if you need to. And let's see how you did once you get to the end of number 5. Okay, guys, so we've done the multiplication of decimals. So in question 1, 0,7 times 0,8. Take the decimals out by multiplying each number by 10. So I've got 7 multiplied by 8 is 56. And then I need to divide that 56 by 10 and by 10 again, which is dividing it by 100. So that's 0,56. All right, remember to check how many numbers there are after the decimal in the question. There are 2, 7 and 8. And there are 2 numbers after the decimal in the answer, which is 5 and 6. So we know we must be on the right path. 21 over 25 is a decimal fraction. So to change a fraction into a decimal, to make it easier, we need to convert the denominator to 100, or 10, 100, or 1,000. So in this case, we'll convert it to 100. And we do that by multiplying by 4. So I must do the same to the numerator. 21 multiplied by 4 is 84. So that gives you 0,84. Okay. Then question 3, how many meters and kilometers are equal to 0,75 of 6 kilometers? So first of all, it would be useful to convert 0,75 to a fraction. And if you know your decimals and fractions, you'll know that 0,75 is 75 over 100, which looks like that. And then if we want to simplify that, we recognize that 25 goes into 75 3 times and into 100 4 times. So we're looking for 3/4 of 6. Okay, now it's up to you whether you want to convert the 6 kilometers into 6,000 meters and work in meters first. Your number will be quite a bit larger, but again, that's a choice that you need to make. I'm going to keep it as it is. So 3 times 6 is 18, and 4 times 1 is 4. So 18 over 4 is equal to 4 and 2 over 4, which is 4.5. Okay, and they've asked us for the answer in kilometers and meters, sorry. So that's 4 kilometers and 500 meters. Okay, and that's the same as 4.5 kilometers. Okay, good. So that's just fractions of amounts, but asked in a decimal format. Okay, but same principles apply. Question 4, a family of 4 drink 2.5 liters of milk each day. What is the average amount in milliliters for each person? Okay, so there we're doing division of decimals, and we said that when we divide decimals, if we're dividing by a whole number, then we can just divide it normally like we would in short division. Okay, and that's what we have. So 4 doesn't go into 2, decimal in the same place. 4 goes into 25 6 times. Okay, now there's 1 left over, so I need to put a 0 in place. 4 goes into 10 twice with 2 left over, and 4 goes into 25 times, so it is 0.625 liters, but they want the answer in milliliters, so 625 milliliters. Okay, good. And then the last question is just to refresh your memory on powers of 10 and exponents. So 10 to the power of 4 is 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, so 4 times, 4 zeros, so we know that that's 80,000. All right, 2 times 10 to the power of 3, 10 to the power of 3 is 1,000, so that's adding 2,000. Okay, 6 squared is 36. And 5 to the power of 1 is 5. And if we put those all together, we get 82,041. Okay, right, well done if you remembered those past principles. Go back and have a look at the lessons if you struggled through any questions. Right, today we're going to have a look at percentages. So first off, the word percent actually means parts per 100. So percentage is always out of 100. Yes, you can get 150%, 200%, but it's still out of 200. I mean, still out of 100. So 5% actually means 5 out of 100. So percentage is therefore a type of fraction. So each fraction has an equivalent decimal, has an equivalent percentage. So you can see I've written there FDP, which is fractions, decimals, percentages. And there's in red is my statement I've just made about every fraction having an equivalent decimal or percentage and percentage. So the table you can see on your screen are some fractions, percentages, and decimals that I think you should already know. You should know that a whole is 100% and the decimal is 1,0. I'm not going to go through the whole table. It's there for you to have a look at, but I'd really suggest that, and encourage you guys to learn these conversions between fractions, decimals, and percentages. And if we just have a look at the Google Jamboard quickly, I'll pick out a couple of them. How do I get from a fraction to a percentage? So if I've got a half, I know I must multiply by 50 to get to a number out of 100, because percentage is out of 100, and that gives me my 50%. Okay, so that's quite a straightforward one. If we go have a look at an eighth, the same thing applies. Okay, with an eighth, we can't get it to 100. Okay, it's not possible. So we can also get it to 1,000. So I need to multiply by 125 to get to 1,000. So I must do the same to the numerator. So that's going to give me 125 over 1,000. Okay, then I can go to 100 by dividing by 10. All right, and that's going to give me my 12.5% and 0.125 as a decimal. 3 numbers in the denominator, 3 numbers after the comma in the decimal. Okay, so that's how we're converting to percentages. If you struggle to get a number to a fraction's denominator to go into 10, 100 or 1,000, sorry, 100 or 1,000, then you need to, for example, if you've got 1 over 9 and you want to convert that to a percentage, you multiply by 100 over 1, okay, and that's 100 divided by 9, and then you can go work that out. 9 goes into 10 once, with 1 left over. 9 goes into 10 again once, okay, and then you've got to have a decimal, and it's going to be a recurring decimal. But that's kind of how you would convert a fraction to a percentage if you couldn't convert the denominator to 100 or 1,000 and then divide by 10. Okay, so that's a little bit of a recap on fractions, decimals, and percentages. Okay, I've just gone through converting fractions to percentages. So I'll just recap for you there. To convert a fraction to a percentage, convert the denominator to 100. Remember that whatever you do to the denominator, you must do to the numerator. And then refer to the table on the previous slide for examples, and then I showed you a couple of examples there. If you can't convert, then multiply by 100 over 1, and then it's multiplication of fractions, which you guys know how to do as we've covered it in previous lessons. Okay, so I've got 6 conversions for you to do. So there's either a decimal, a fraction, or percentage in each one. So if there's a decimal, I need to know the equivalent fraction and percentage. If there's a fraction, I want to know their equivalent decimal and percentage. And if there's a percentage, I would like to know their equivalent decimal and fraction. So off you go, have a look at the previous slides, read the notes that are on there to help you out, and let's see how you guys go. Okay guys, so let's check it out. So in A, we've got 0.08. I know that that is 8 over 100, okay, because this 8 is in the 100th column. That is also equal to 4 over 50 or 2 over 25. And as a percentage, it is 8% because it's 8 out of 100. Okay, for B, for 1 over 20, I can convert that to 5 over 100 by multiplying the denominator and the numerator by 5, and then I know that that is 0.05 and 5%. Okay, let's clear some space quickly. For C, you've got 36%, so straight away you should be thinking, how can I write that as a fraction? And that's 36 out of 100. Okay, I can simplify that to 18 over 50, which is the same as 9 over 25. Okay, so that's all good there. That's your fractions done. And then as your decimal, 0.36. Your decimal of 18 over 50 will also be 0.36, and over 9, and your decimal of 9 over 25 will be 0.36. For D, you've got 6 over 25. I'm going to change the denominator to 100, and I'll do that by multiplying by 4. So 6 multiplied by 4 is 24. So that equals 0.24 and 24%. Okay. E, you had 84 over 300. So don't panic if it's out of something greater than 100. All right, we can just simplify it. 84 over 300. Okay, I know I need to multiply 300 by 3 to get to 100. This will go on a previous lesson. How do I know if 84 can be divided by 3? Quite correct. I add the 8 and the 4. That gives me 12. So therefore, if 12 can be divided by 3, which it can be, 84 can be divided by 3. That's divisibility rules. There is a lesson that we've done on it. If you missed it, go and check it out. So I know that 84 divided by 3 is 28. Okay, that's going to be 0.28 and 28%. Okay, and then your final one, which is 60 over 1,500. Okay, so here you can simplify this fraction, right? I divide by 10 first, and that gives me 6 over 150. I would then divide by 3, and that gives me 2 over 50. Okay, then I would just convert that to a fraction out of 100, and that would give me 0.04 or 4%. Okay, so work with the numbers so that you can get it to a denominator out of 100, but you've got your plan B where you would, here the skull is telling you if you can't convert, then multiply by 100 over 1. Okay, so well done for doing those, guys. Okay, there are a couple of questions here for you. So the first one is a problem-solving question that says 60 pieces of biscuit crumbs were spilt on the floor. If 80% of the crumbs were sucked up by a vacuum cleaner on the first sweep, how many biscuit crumbs were sucked up? So I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to see if you guys can figure that out. And let's see how you... So there's the question in front of you. This is what I would have done. There's 60 pieces of bread crumbs. 80% were sucked up by the vacuum cleaner after being spilt up on the floor. So I'm looking for 80% of 60 pieces. Okay, so you've got a choice here. You can either go 10% of 60 equals 6 and then multiply by 8 to get an answer of 48. All right, or we can say 80 over 100 multiplied by 60 over 1. And we know that 80 over 100 can be simplified to 4/5. Okay, and then 60 times 4 is 240. 5 times 1 is 5. And then 240 divided by 5 is going to give you that 48. Okay, so both ways are going to get you to the same answer. Okay, before we get on to the next problem-solving questions, I want you to have a go at those 4 questions at the bottom of your screen. Work them out either by using fractions or work out 10% by dividing by 10, and then once you've got your 10%, you can work out anything else really. So let's see how you go with those 4 questions. Okay, so your first one is 20% of 40. Okay, so I can either say 10% is equal to 4. Okay, so 20% is therefore going to be equal to 8, or 20 over 100, which is 1/5, multiplied by 40 over 1, and then you've got 1 times 40 is 40, over 5 times 1 is 5, and 40 divided by 5 is the same as 8. Okay, so those are your 2 options that I would suggest that you use. Okay, then we've got for B 30% of 20. So to find 10%, I just divide 20 by 10. Why? How does that work? You might be asking. Well, 10% is 10 over 100, which is the same as 1/10. Okay, so if I multiplied that by 20 over 1, that's going to give me 2. Okay, and so if I know 10% is 2, then 30% must be equal to 6. All right, so that's your one option, and then the other option was 30 over 100 times 20, and that's going to look like this. Just give me a second. Okay, 30 over 100, which equals 3 over 10, multiplied by 20 over 1 equals 60 over 10, which equals 6. Okay, 50% of 32, I'm hoping that you recognize that 50% is just half, so you don't really need to work anything out there. Half of 32 is going to be 16. Okay, so always have a look at the question and actually decide whether you do need to actually work anything out, or if you can recognize like 50% is a half, or a quarter is divided by 4, or a fifth is divided by 5, a tenth divided by 10. Okay, so use your knowledge to your advantage. You don't always have to go through the same old process just for the sake of doing it. If you can recognize things like that, then it's going to make your life a lot easier. 35% of 80. If I work out 10% first, I'm going to get 8. If I know 10% is 8, 5% will be 4. And then to get to 35%, 5 times 7 is 35. So 4 times 7 will be 28. Okay. The other method, if I'd use the fraction form, okay, is 35 over 100, simplified is 7 over 20 times 80 over 1. All right, I can go 7 times 80 is 560 over 20. Okay, and then once you've simplified that fraction, and we can simplify it, how many times 10 goes into there once each? So 56 over 2. 56 divided by 2 is 28. So it's the same answer. Okay. Now, all that's left for you to do is to answer the question at the bottom. So answer it using what we've just worked through together. Okay, so 15% of 200 gigabytes of a 200 gigabyte hard drive on a laptop is filled with Kulani's music collection. How many gigabytes does his music take up in storage? So go work out how much music Kulani keeps on his hard drive. Okay, so there's the question involving Kulani's music collection. So 15% of 200. How many gigabytes does his music take up in storage? So I'm going to work out 15% of 200. I can work out 10%. That equals 20. So therefore 5% will equal 10. And if I add them together, there's your 15% equals 30. Okay, and if I just show you in the fraction form, the fraction form will be 15 over 100, which equals 3 over 20 of 200. So that's going to give me 600 over 20. Okay, and if I simplify that, I'll divide both numbers by 10. Okay, and we know that 60 divided by 2 is equal to 30. So 15% of 200 is 30. So Kulani is using 30 gigabytes of the 200 for music storage. Okay, guys, go back and have a look at those questions. Make sure you understand what we're looking for, and make sure you understand how to work out the percentages of amounts. You must choose which method you would like to go with. Right, all that's left for us today is our finisher. Okay, so off you go and have a look at that. So well done for working through that. Let's have a look at what answers we can come up with. So I've already put in what they've given us. I am going to put in numbers and just check by trial and error. So I'm going to use 0 for the telescope. Okay. Then I use 10 multiplied by 10 to get 100. Okay. I plugged in some more numbers, and obviously 4 times 10 is 40. We know 10 times 9 is 90. So 4 times 9 is 36. Okay. Then the bogey at the top must be 8, because 4 times 8 is 32. And then 10 times 8 is 80. So I must be honest and say that that took me a while to put the numbers in. So well done if you struggled through it and got those answers correct. Okay, guys, there's your 24 challenge for the day. Remember to use each number once. So on the first card, 1, 1, 9, and 6, how do you use those 4 numbers and any of the operation signs to make 24? Remember, you can use the operations once, twice, you can use a combination. There's no limit to that. You can only use the numbers once though. Try to find as many ways as you can to get the answer of 24. It's really good for your arithmetic. It's really good for your order of operations. And it's a cool little challenge to have in the house while you're working towards tomorrow's lesson. Remember, there are additional percentage activities for you to do on WorksheetCloud.com with a memo, and you guys are obviously more than welcome to go look at previous lessons and use the activities attached to those lessons as well. Guys, have a great day. My apologies about the sun on my face. I've been trying to move to get out of the sunshine, and I underestimated how quickly it would move. But hopefully you got the gist of the lesson, and please email me should you have any questions going forward. Have a great day. All the best.